Tearscape releases on February 2nd. I know there are many who feel like the Souls-like genre is done to death, but this looks like a pretty unique take on it. Featuring graphics ripped right out of the Game Boy Color, a large map to explore, and it looks like they did a good job of mixing the standard Zelda combat with some Dark Soul-inspired tropes like parries and dodge rolls. There are dungeons to explore that give you new tools that can be used in combat, as well as to expand exploration, and the trailer shows some potentially really good-looking boss fights. Normally, I kind of lose interest when I see the tag Souls-like, but this one looks really interesting. The next one is a mouthful, called Super Shadow Break Showdown Ninja vs. the 3 Kaijus, and releases on February 3rd. One of the things I love the most about indie games is just how creative they can get with some tried and true concepts. This game seems to combine classic block-breaking action inspired by stuff like Arkanoid and mixes in ninjas, some shmup elements, and some cool boss battles. I'm not normally a super fan of this genre, but this one looks interesting and may be worth a look when it releases. Anthem 9 is a roguelite puzzle deck builder. I know the market is way oversaturated with these kind of games, but I really enjoy the visuals. It kind of makes it stand out amongst its peers. Watching the trailer, I can't say I understand a whole lot of what is going on, but it looks like a pretty fast-paced game that is heavily focused on building your deck with synergy and then unleashing large combos on your opponent. They'll also throw in some kind of gem matching. By matching colors together, you could trigger extra moves and combos from your deck. I don't know, it's not a typical game that I would play, but this one does look kind of fun and appealing to me. The Pale Piper is a dark and twisted reimagining of the Pied Piper. Hey, if Pinocchio can get a video game, I feel like the Pied Piper deserves one too. This is a platformer with Metroidvania elements and no combat. This game is completely reliant on your movement to get around what looks to be some pretty brutal challenges, including some boss fights, so they have to use the environments to take him down. The movement in the trailer looks spectacular. It's fast and has some elements of rolling around ball style like Samus, with some added gimmicks like hopping around different targets. The game has a nice dark gothic look as well and looks to be a lot of fun. No Mana, Just Dice is a turn-based strategy roguelike that releases on February 5th. I love a good tactics game, and I always like to see new original takes on the genre. This game has a heavy emphasis on dice and using your rolls for movement and to unleash attacks. The randomness may take away from some of the tactical depth, but if executed properly, may add just enough tension to set it apart from its peers. One of my favorite tactics games is Children of the Zodiacs, which has a similar dice rolling mechanics. That's why I'm a little intrigued by this one. The next one is definitely an oddball pick, called That Is Not the Ball, and it releases on February 5th. I always love the typing of the dead, and this game takes that concept and turns into a game about protecting your little puppy. Your puppy runs through environments with all sorts of obstacles from zombies to evil bushes, and you have to type fast to protect him so he can bring you back the ball you threw to him. It is a cute concept. I'm a pretty sloppy typer, so I probably won't be great at it, but it looks like a fun homage to the typing of the dead style gameplay. If you were like me and had a Sega CD growing up, you probably played a ton of terrible FMV games that were pixelated, looked like total garbage, but in our minds, it was like we were watching a movie. The Run, which releases on February 5th, takes that concept with actual realistic graphics and has you following a fitness influencer who is being hunted by killers on one of her running trails. The decisions you make decide whether she lives or dies. The trailer shows some pretty gruesome deaths, kind of like a real-life Dragon's Lair, as well as a nice variety of different scenarios. This game might be one of those so cheesy it's actually fun games, and I haven't played a game like this in years, so it may be worth it, just if for nothing else to tickle my Night Trap nostalgia. Lovish is an awesome looking 8-bit action platformer that releases on February 5th. You take control of a hero trying to rescue a princess and have to go through over 50 rooms to do it. I love the graphics in this game, and the challenges look really fun and varied. There are also wacky in-between level events that are randomized and throw all sorts of different things at you, from a turn-based battle to WarioWare style microgames. The music from the trailer sounds awesome as well, and is made by the same guy who did the music in Castle in Darkness and Astalon, which are two absolutely amazing indie games. This one is a no-brainer for me, and I'll definitely be picking it up on February 5th. If you are like me, you probably hate sports games, and maybe sports in general. I certainly do. But this next game is an interesting twist on American football. You play as a football player, clearing out different levels of enemies. But just like real football, you only get 4 tackles per level. So there is a puzzle-solving element to every level, as well as an emphasis on precision. It's a unique concept, and even though I don't like football, this game looks fun and interesting enough that I may want to check it out. Our Little Brothers is a game about rescuing kidnapped dogs and releases on February 6th. It's a third-person shooter and advertises bullet-time mechanics and destructible environments. The trailer shows lots of carnage and adorable puppies. I don't have a ton of faith that this game is going to be great. At the same time, it kind of gives off classic Max Payne vibes, and that is the kind of game I haven't played in God knows how long. I feel like this can go either way. It may be good, campy, bloody fun, or a total dumpster fire. I guess we'll have to wait till February 6th to find out. This next game is my pick for my most anticipated game this month. 1964 Operation Velvet Twins is an 8-bit brawler shooter made by my favorite indie developer, Sep. I buy every game these guys put out, and I'm never disappointed. This one looks like a lot of fun, and the store page advertised it as a mix of Rolling Thunder and Double Dragon. I don't think they could have said anything to get me more excited than that. I've played enough of this company's games to know that this is going to be awesome, and it looks like it uses the same engine from 1989 After the War, which was one of my favorite indie games from last year. It released on February 9th, and this is definitely a day one buy for me. Dengaki Bachi Bachi is a top-down game that releases on February 10th. The gameplay looks really simple and addicting. You play as a little dude trying to reach his girl at the end of the stage. To do that, you have to navigate through over 30 levels riddled with traps. One mistake and it's over. You do get infinite continues according to the store page, but there is no save, so you gotta beat it in one sitting. I don't really love that in modern games, but if it's short enough, it won't matter, and the gameplay looks fun enough that I really want to check it out. Releasing a survival horror game the same month as Resident Evil Requiem is probably not the greatest idea, but this next game does look pretty cool. Called Crystal Theater of Idols. It has you exploring an island in a twisted, dark version of Spain. We all know that resource management is a big part of survival horror, and in this game, the resource you have to manage is your blood. By sacrificing some of your own blood, you could power your weapons, but you also kind of need it to survive. So it'll create an interesting balancing act, which sounds really cool in theory. The graphics are great, the environments are dark, and honestly really disturbing, as are the enemies. It kind of reminds me of like a 3D Blasphemous, and it does release about 2 weeks before Requiem, so you should have enough time to beat it, and it might be a good appetizer for that game. When I popped open this game on the Steam store page, I was really surprised to see the Acclaim logo pop up. I haven't seen those guys since the PS1 era, at least it feels like I haven't. I actually thought it was just a parody, but it turns out this game is actually published by Acclaim. Who knew? It's a Metroidvania that hides yourself trapped in the mind of a game developer, experiencing a ton of physical and emotional burnout. That's something I could definitely relate to. The game itself looks really fun, and it's got nice 16-bit graphics, really fast gameplay, and seems to introduce a variety of different mechanics, all with a nice sense of humor. I think I'll check it out just for no other reason to see what Acclaim is up to nowadays. 2 survival horror games in the same month as Resident Evil Requiem? I guess so. Welcome to Dolltown is all about surviving a town full of the only thing creepier than clowns, dolls. This one looks a lot more like a classic PlayStation 1 inspired survival horror, and has you trying to unravel the mystery of a town cursed by a tragic love story. It kind of reminds me a bit of the original Silent Hill, where the whole town is out to get you and you have just enough fog to creep you out with every step you take. Our next game is called The Screaming Head, and it just seems completely bonkers. You play as a polyamorous head, and no, that is not me making a joke, that is from the Steam store page, whose body has left him and has kidnapped all of his wives. You then have to travel through 32 stages of hardcore 2D platforming. This game definitely has a sense of humor and completely whacked out levels and bosses. Your method of attack is that you could scream, you get some weapons, and you could hit people with your eyeballs. I don't really know what to make of this trailer, but I do love a good 2D platformer, and this one looks crazy enough that it might be a bit of a hidden gem when it releases on February 16th. Norse Oath of Blood, releasing on February 17th, is a Viking-themed tactical RPG. I always think Vikings made such great video game fodder, and this one seems like it has a lot going for it. You have to build up your Viking settlement, go hunting in the wild for resources, and engage in what looks to be really fun and gory tactical battles. There is a large emphasis on story in this game as well, as decisions you make will affect various in-game outcomes. I'm definitely stoked for this one, as I love a good tactical game and I love a good Viking tale. Palpus X Annihilation releases on February 17th is an isometric run-and gun with a handcrafted story campaign as well as an endless horde mode. There are a ton of weapons to discover, some light RPG leveling up, and hundreds of monsters to kill. The gameplay here looks super fast and right up my alley. As of release though, be warned, there is no controller support, so those of us looking for another great twin stick will not find it here. However, the developer has said they will look into possibly implementing it later, and I hope they do, because I'm not a mouse and keyboard guy, so I'll wait for that. But it does look great, and definitely something I'll look into if they implement controller support down the line. Demon Tides, releasing on February 19th, is an absolutely spectacular looking 3D platformer. The graphics are gorgeous, but the movement looks even better. There is a big emphasis on speed and speedrunning, and that really comes through in the trailer. At the same time, there is a large open world to explore, and the movement options make it look like it's going to be a really good time traversing this world. You get everything from dashes to wall runs, gliding, swimming, air dashing, and so much more. There's also a ton of unlockable gear to customize how you play, including tailoring your moveset to your liking. I'm super excited for this one. Let's do one more 3D platformer. QPs is a completely free game releasing on February 23rd, and I have to say it looks pretty solid, especially given the fact that it's free. It describes itself as a chaotic and challenging game that has you trying to rescue your friends who have gotten themselves into trouble. You have to gather them and bring them to various points in the level, but they just kind of stand around and don't do anything, but they're needed to unlock certain doors and bypass other obstacles. The game store emphasizes the focus on dying and retrying, so although it may be free, be prepared to get frustrated, but it definitely looks good enough to check out, especially given the fact that it won't cost you any money. Boomerang Survivor 3 looks like a fun and simple game that has you traversing overhead stages with the goal of just clearing out all the enemies. It has cute little graphics and harkens back to those old arcade games, kind of stuff like Bubble Bobble, only from an overhead perspective instead of side view. As the name implies, your main weapon is a boomerang. That follows you as you throw it, and you got a bunch of different power-ups, nice variety of stages to take down all the enemies in. I don't know, it looks cute. I don't know what it's going to retail for, but for the right price, I think it's probably worth a look. So thanks for watching. Let me know down in the comments which of these games you're most excited to play next month, or if you're just going to hold off until Resident Evil Requiem. If you watch my channel, you know that I don't really enjoy AAA games, but you may not know that Resident Evil is the only modern franchise that I still really like. So this will probably be my one and only AAA purchase for this year, and I'll still definitely make some time for some of these awesome looking indies.